everybody, welcome back to another one of our hashtag Star Trek Discovery Discussions videos. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about the short Trek Calypso and what it may mean for the future of Star Trek Discovery Season 3. Before we get into this video, I do want to go ahead and note that there will be spoilers for the end of Discovery Season 2 and the short Trek Calypso, so if you have not seen that, go ahead and click out of this video and go check out a different one on the channel because spoilers are ahead. So out of the 4 short treks that we got prior to the release of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Calypso is the one that asks the most questions and provides almost no answers. For the other 3, we have the fun Harry Mudd one, which is a kind of just a one-off kind of fun adventure, and then we had Stowaway and The Brightest Star, both of which directly connected to the Season 2 of Discovery storyline in a lot of different ways. So Calypso, I believe, will have some kind of connection, but we'll get to my theories here in a minute. I want to go ahead and remind all of you what happened in that short trek. So, for those of you who don't know, the short trek Calypso supposedly takes place 1,000 years into the future, where a man named Kraft, who is from the planet of Alcor 4, is in an enemy spacecraft that gets picked up by the USS Discovery inside of a nebula. Now, the Discovery has no crew on board with it and was ordered by an unnamed captain to remain in this nebula basically for all time, and the AI on the Discovery, known as Zora now, has become fully sentient and is fully aware of what's going on. Kraft spends some time with Zora, they get to know each other, they get really close, and ultimately Zora lets Kraft leave with the final shuttle that has warp capability on board the Discovery to hopefully get back to his wife on Alcor 4, leaving Zora behind because she is unable to leave. So when this short trek came out, a lot of people, including myself, just figured that it was 1,000 years from the, I guess, set date of Star Trek Discovery, which was around the 2250s, which would put this short trek around the 3200 era. However, as we know at the end of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, in order to escape control, they already jumped about 1,000 years into the future. So the Discovery is already around the year 3200 at the start of Discovery Season 3. So this raises the question of what the heck is going on with this Calypso episode and why was the Discovery in there supposedly for 1,000 years? And for me, I think of it as potentially being 3 different options. Option number 1 is that potentially that this was just a glimpse into one of the various ways that Gabrielle Burnham, Michael Burnham's mother, attempted to try and stop the Control AI from gaining the sphere data. She may have had the Discovery downloaded and then hid it inside this nebula for a bunch of years, and then eventually it didn't work, and then Gabrielle Burnham had to try a different method. That is certainly one way of doing it. The next way that I think could potentially be most likely is that we are now not only in the year 3200, but potentially in the year 4200, that we are now in the 4000s forward, and that we are even further away from anything we've ever seen before in Star Trek. And there's a reason for that, which I'll get into that final theory here in a second. And then the third reason is that the show kind of just screwed it up somehow, and they don't really know what they're doing. Now, I know some of you may agree with that because you don't really like the production staff over at Secret Hideout, but considering how heavily involved the Brightest Star and Stowaway short treks were in Star Trek Discovery Season 2, I don't think that this is going to be a situation where the Calypso short trek was just accidentally written to have the wrong dates on it. I do think that there's quite a bit here trying to convey to the audience what is potentially already going to happen to the Discovery. Like, we may already know how the story ends, we just need to know how to get there at this particular point. So let me elaborate on the one that I really agree with, which is that the Discovery is now in the year 4000s-ish. What I think is that when the Discovery reappears in the future, it's going to cause problems for the Federation, because now there's this arrival of this really badass time suit. Control hasn't wiped out all of humanity, and there is this huge conspiracy cover-up of what happened with the Control AI and Section 31. I think that there's going to be a lot of problems there, and I think ultimately what's going to happen is throughout the course of the 3rd season, different entities are going to vie for control over the Discovery because it still contains the sphere data. And I think what's going to happen is that the crew of the Discovery is essentially at the end of possibly the Discovery show will decide to put the ship inside of a nebula that cannot be interfered with, that people would not be able to randomly come across by accident, or that would be able to easily hide itself, and basically tell it to never leave that nebula because the sphere data itself is too dangerous to be left in anyone's hands, whether the Federation, the Romulans, the Klingons, anybody. Nobody can get their hands on this particular bit of data because it would just be too dangerous and it's just too much. But the data itself could either essentially become sentient, which the sphere data already kind of was sentient in a lot of ways as it was trying to defend itself from being deleted. But we also know that the AI of the ship, the sphere data, and also the knowledge and kind of, I guess, consciousness of Arium could have already started to fuse together into the character of which I believe eventually becomes Zora. So not only is this being sentient, the knowledge is very valuable, but it's too dangerous. So what's the most Starfleet thing you can do other than destroy it? Which is to just hide it and let hopefully sometime in the future someone will be wise enough to take this data and use it appropriately, but it's not at that particular point. A sub-potential part of this particular theory that I may be kind of trying to work with, but the dates don't exactly add up right now yet, is that the arrival of this temporal suit and the discovery could potentially kick off the events of the Temporal Cold War. We haven't seen that too much right now that's going on. That's from the Enterprise show, in case you guys forgot, with Daniels, and that they were trying to correct the timeline, and they were dealing with the Future Man and all this, the Sphere Builders and all that other stuff like that. Basically, the second, third, and fourth, maybe even all 4 seasons of Star Trek Enterprise, to be honest, where they were all dealing with this temporal Cold War. They were trying to correct the timeline and the temporal accords and all this other stuff like that. So I'm wondering if the arrival of Discovery forces the Federation's hand in establishing the accords, which pisses off other races that have the technology, and then that starts off the temporal Cold War. So that's a sub-theory that kind of attaches to that. Another sub-theory that I want to kind of play with a little bit is the fact that the Vidraesh, referenced by Kraft, who is a race that he is at war with, holds onto things from the long time ago, and that we do know from Michael Chabon that this is kind of a slang term for the Federation. Now, most people assume that this means that the Federation has fallen apart and that they have just become a fractured society, and now they are basically at war with different human colonies. But a theory that I kind of want to work with is that this is a sub-breakout group of the Federation, and potentially the Federation expands beyond its normal bounds and no longer exists, and this is just a group of people still trying to hold on to those ideals of the Federation that maybe don't like the mixing of too many different races or whatever it is that occurs post-Temporal Cold War. And because we also get that kind of implication from Daniels that the Federation isn't necessarily around still at that particular point in time. So the Vidraeus may just be like an offshoot of humans and other alien species kind of connected together in a whole new type of Federation deal that they don't like. And we have seen that kind of prejudice thing played up a little bit in Enterprise and various other incarnations throughout Star Trek's history, maybe not necessarily with humans, but it is entirely possible that that may also occur and be what is going on with the Vidraeus. Anyways, guys and gals, that wraps up my current theory video for the Calypso. I think whatever it is that's going on with it is absolutely going to be something that is quite interesting. I don't think that the episode is just a one-off. I don't think it's an error. I think that they potentially are showing us what happens to the Discovery at the end of the show already, but now they're going to be telling us the story of how it gets inside of that nebula. And I think it's kind of just like a narrative fun tease for us as the viewer. But I'm curious to hear what all of you guys think about this theory. Do you think I'm on the money? Do you think something else? Go ahead and throw out those comments down below. Let's get the conversation started. And I'll catch all of y'all next time. Live long and prosper, my Trekkies!